Welcome back. Thank you everybody for your support. Thank you for being there. I'm here once again to continue our conversation with Dani Katz. So as the kind of cliffhanger I left before is we're going to talk about being. We're going to talk about being and particularly from the language interpretation and trying to look at how we use language, how our use of language affects how we are. And so one of the first things that I mentioned before is this strange concept. What do you think about this? How, and maybe we can even think about possible solutions, but we say to be, right? In Spanish is ser. And we say to be, but then in the past, you were, and the different first person, second person, they are all different again. And in Spanish, you say ser would be the what's this called, the gerund? Is that the word? Well, whatever the normal. I can't remember the name in linguistics of the thing, but or in grammar. Ser is the gerund is the ing, right?
The gerund is the ing. I think it's a noun ing.
Yeah, the infinitive, I think, is the word I'm looking for. So
Yes.
in neutral, let's say, in Spanish you say ser, and you say yo soy, tú eres, él es, nosotros, nosotros somos, we are, y ustedes son. So
they're all different.
All different.
That makes no sense.
I can look for a chart to show it, but
I hadn't thought about this before.
I think it's a very important key for the future of humanity.
I think you're right. I'm curious to know why you think that is.
In part because of this thing of to be. That's like, again, for us, it's for us and for everything that is the neutral thing. It's the base of the thing. It's the McKenna would say the sine qua non, or the essence of the thing is to be. You know, I was thinking earlier, what is Shakespeare, to be or not to be? That is the question. And it's the most basic thing, but it doesn't seem that language is built around this. It's more like language was built around something else, maybe action or what you can do with things. And then at some point they said, oh, but what about this thing? We are, okay, let's come up with a verb to describe this thing. It's like if language is like an app, and they are making upgrades and updates every time, every day, every year, whatever. And eventually they come up, oh, we should have made this upgrade like at the very start of the thing, but we're making it now, and now the whole application is kind of wonky. It kind of doesn't work exactly like it should.
Yeah.
But it's already too late because there's already so many copies of the app. So we have the English app, the Spanish, the German, or even if we go back, I wouldn't know in those like ancient languages like maybe Sanskrit and Proto-Indo-European languages and stuff like that, how they managed the idea of to be. But that's why I think it's so.
Etymology.
Yeah, that's good. And that's why I think it's so crucial and important that we, I don't know, maybe the solution is to, how can we transform it into what's it called? A regular verb, like,
yeah.
Well, what's an example of a regular verb?
Walk.
Walk.
He walks, she walks, I walk. It's all consistent.
Why is it that being is an exception? That is my question.
I love that this is what we're talking about. because I hadn't thought about that before. And so what it's making me think of, my big question is always like, when did our reality get co-opted? You know, and the way I examine the English language, which is rife with enslavement constructs and hierarchy and disempowerment, I wonder, was it always like this? Or did someone come in and flip it or infect it? Because, you know, the book that I'm writing right now is about hierarchical language. And it's about like really pinpointing the hierarchical enslavement traps in English. I'm an English speaker, so that's what I'm dealing with. And what I was writing about this morning was fragmentation, and how I think fragmentation is a key strategy in terms of divide, control, enslave. So what you're talking about with this verb, that feels extremely fragmenting. Like for me, anything fragmenting like upsets coherence, cohesion, harmony. It's like a stutter on a record or a CD. It's like anything that like interrupts the flow, and that makes things more difficult to understand than they need to be, which is exactly this word. You know, if you're, I would imagine for you learning English as a second language, like, what the hell is this? None of these have anything to do one another. It creates more complexity and more confusion instead of streamlining and cohering, which from my perspective would be the function of any organizational structure, which is fundamentally what language is. So if it's not easy to understand why and what were the intentions behind that.
Yeah, and I know there's been, well, maybe it didn't affect necessarily the verbs, but I understand, for example, that again, I don't know why I'm mentioning Shakespeare, but isn't Shakespeare kind of attributed to have like updated English or something like that? Like the old English to the new English or something of the sort. And I guess that's why he's like so famous. It's because he brought up like a new way of expressing yourself in English. And there is a like a parallel in Spanish. This guy called Cervantes, which I think he's the guy from the Quijote.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe those things are connected. I don't want to get conspiratorial, but maybe
aren't there conspiracies around Shakespeare and his whole body of work? So that would actually make sense if the language changed because of his influence. That is not irrelevant. I
think Michael Wan might point at who was this guy? I can't remember the name. Like for a possible guy that was behind the Shakespeare thing, Francis Bacon.
Francis Bacon.
And it's connected also with the King James Bible. I think it's King James V or whatever. And at the same general era, it's let me see, the discovery or colonization of the US, right? So is it around that time? Yeah, probably not the discovery, but I think that those first towns in the East Coast. So I don't know, when we create a new world and we create a new language, and I don't know, it's interesting. I'm going to look. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I love this because there's like, if we could choose one word that has the most fundamental importance in any language, it's going to be the quality of being. So it's odd that that's janky, but you're saying that's also janky in Spanish, that it's irregular in Spanish as well. So, and have you tracked that back?
I'm just looking for Cervantes, okay, the one that I think is kind of an analogous version in Spanish, and I just found something very interesting that I want to corroborate first. So Shakespeare. Yeah, Shakespeare and Cervantes. No. They died one day apart from each other, April 22nd and April 23rd of 1616. What? The two kind of greatest writers in English and Spanish.
And 1616 is a 7/7.
Yeah.
That's bizarre. You know, in the Mayan culture, there was no verb to be.
Wow.
That didn't even exist in their language. Things were just verbs that were happening in the moment, but no one was identifying. I mean, that's the other thing with being, because there's, yes, our being, and there's the whole being versus doing, but I am, you know, that's a very powerful phrase right there. And that creates identity constructs, that creates cages, that I don't think people, I mean, I know that people are not aware of what a powerful and potentially dangerous and also magical tool that is. And interesting that it's kind of jacked up in your native language and my native language. This Mayan culture, you know, I don't recall being alive during it, but you know, that it was hierarchical, it was more kind of idyllic according to lore, and they didn't even acknowledge that concept or those words at all.
Yeah, that's interesting, because before I was thinking maybe, okay, the verb to be needs to be made into a regular verb, but now you bring this, yeah, but if it's so essential, it maybe doesn't even need to exist. And those languages, I think in Chinese, maybe it's kind of similar, that it's a kind of way to express yourself that in our culture it's been made fun of, like, oh, you speak like an Indian, you like in broken, you know, our English and Spanish, they have this quality of being more like, I don't know how to describe it, but
it's like
more
they put on
poetic,
airs. Yeah, it's like a little bit it's like more sophisticated, so to speak, but
it's
I think there are
describe
traps within that.
Yeah,
versus a more basic, like a kind of perfunctory or utilitarian.
It's more similar to like how babies and children speak. These languages that are called more barbaric or something like that. It's more in tune, you know, and it's something, I think, something good about those languages. It's not that I'm criticizing them because of them probably being like similar to child's speak or child way of creating like speech structures or something. It's something that has been lost in these languages that you and I speak, I guess. This more, maybe it's more like code. If you think, I'm thinking like, you know, when programming isn't as, I don't know if fluid is the word, or sophisticated or whatever. Coding language is more like broken up in bits, and I think it's got something to do.
I think there are a lot of traps in our more, we'll say, less utilitarian language. I think there are a lot more traps that we use to screw ourselves over because we don't understand the intricacies of our language. What I'm also thinking of is, have you ever watched any Krishnamurti lectures or videos?
Yes.
So Krishnamurti, he's, you know, one of my biggest influences, because you watch him and he made a point of never using the I am, or never, and there's so many instances where he does it and you see him correct himself in real time, which to me is like one of the most beautiful teachings I've witnessed, to have this, you know, enlightened master who's humble enough to show us and model his own learning process. Yeah, I think I kind of consider like the I am at this point like a handgun, where like if you're going to use it, you need to have some training and some knowledge about how it actually functions.
Yeah, you know what? The other thing I was thinking is that, yeah, perhaps the very existence of the verb to be is a confusing element in itself. So like questions arise concerning who am I, what is the difference, for example, in spirituality, the difference between me, the small I, let's say, and God, the big I. But the question only comes up because there is that to be and that I am in the language where we're asking this question. Maybe in a different kind of language, that apparent distinction wouldn't even come up in people's minds, and they would be like more in connection with their higher selves, because there is no implicit distinction in their language. But at the same time, maybe for the future, there's some noise. I hope it's not bothering. All right.
No.
But for the future, maybe it's a kind of an integration of the two things. Perhaps we should be able to not get confused just because there's this word, then who am I and what is God? Maybe if we were able to have the word and at the same time have the sensation of oneness with everything, but maybe language is working against that, or maybe it's an impediment in that task.
I mean, there are definitely schools of thought that that claim that language, like just the introduction of language itself, was an enslavement construct that kind of got us off track. And while I see validity in that perspective, there's only so much, energy I could give it, given that language is everything that I function, that I focus on in this lifetime. And as of now, it is the meta structure that is containing us.
And then they need to use it in order to say that in order to express the thing.
Exactly. And the other thing is that we've developed this level of consciousness, of rationalism, et cetera, because of language. So I don't know that we can necessarily roll that back now. I don't believe in impossible. If it was decided that was the best thing for humanity, I'm sure we could pull it off.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, if we just created a regular to be verb structure, how would that affect us? Like, how would that change our humanity?
Yeah, I be, you be, he be, she be.
Right. I mean, just that right there would create a more unifying humanistic structure, because even though I'm acknowledging that there's a you and there's a me, we're still being in the same way. But the way that it's set up, it takes us so much farther away from our shared humanity, because when you're being and I'm being, we're not even using the same word for that being.
Yeah. Your thing is are and my thing is two different words. And
yeah,
I can even add something even more confusing into the stirring pot.
Oh joy, more confusion.
Cool. Let me share my screen for a moment. Yeah. Okay, so here you can see the Cervantes thing, April 22nd, 1616 in Madrid, Spain. And here we have Shakespeare, April 23rd of the same year in the UK. That's insane. I didn't know that. So where is the thing I wanted?
And you're saying that Michael Wan has spoken about a connection between Cervantes and Shakespeare. Are they alleged to be the same person?
No, I don't think he's talked about them. I think he has kind of given some hints at Shakespeare. There's this idea of Shakespeare, like maybe he didn't exist as we think, but he was more like a kind of a character created by a group. It's like all the works he's made, and it's like so much for a guy that I think they say he didn't even study or stuff like that, or he wrote for a very short time. So it's like a kind of like that band, the Milli Vanilli, that they eventually found that somebody else was the actual singer or whatever. So kind of something like that. So he was like a mascot, let's say, for another thing behind him. And I think Michael says that it's connected to Francis Bacon.
Right, who's himself like a bizarre, was he a person? Was he another archetypal umbrella?
Yeah.
What I'm noticing is, according to this, that he died only a couple days before his birthday, and he started being super active at only 21 years old or years of age.
Right, here we go. Yeah, 1585.
It's a little suspect.
Right? It's very,
That's
very
quite
weird.
young.
And this other guy, yeah, he was born earlier, I think, but dying almost on the same day. That's very crazy.
That's
and
odd.
what I wanted to share right now is this. This is the conjugation table for the verb to be in Spanish.
Okay.
So here you can see in black, in bold, I mean, you have the persons of the first person, etc. And on the other hand, you have the how the verb is conjugated. So in the present, you have soy, eres, it's all different words.
It's more cohesive in the past and in the future, but it's not at all in the present.
Right? That's correct. Yeah, in the past and in the future, it's relatively similar. It's quite regular, yeah, to be honest.
Yeah, that's kind of nutty. I'd be curious to know what other languages have this irregularity.
Yeah, and so the thing I wanted to add is that in Spanish we have a second word. This is hard to explain. In English, you say to be for something that in Spanish we divide it in two. In Spanish, you can ser and you can estar.
And what's the difference?
It's hard to express in English because in English there is no difference. But, and here we go. So estar seems to be, yeah, more
So that's
like
regular.
Regular. But what I wrote down in my notes, let me close this, stop the share. And so to be, this is very trippy. So the thing I finally got into what the difference between ser and estar is that one is for who. Ser is who, where estar is how, where, or when. So if you say that you are in New Mexico or whatever, you say I am in New Mexico, right? If you say I am Dani Katz, I am
Like I am fixing my car.
Correct. Yeah, it's always I am, yeah, right? For whether it's you're talking about the person, the who, the how it's being done, or the how, the where, and the when, you always say to be. In Spanish, the who is to ser, and the other questions is estar. So, yo soy Rafa Martinelli, right? But yo estoy aquí, here. I am here. Yo estoy, etc. It's with estoy. So there we go. Another complication which sets English and Spanish apart in this point.
Yeah. Bizarre.
Right? It's crazy how, like in Spanish, it's so natural. You wouldn't say yo soy en mi casa, which actually it is correct, because it's if I was saying I am being in my house. Yeah, but the more natural thing to say is I am in my house. And in Spanish, the most natural would be estoy in my house. What do you think about all this?
I mean, what's coming to mind, I always want to know, like, who got their grubby hands on language when, what was it like before, you know? So I wonder if this more regular I am that doesn't apply to how, like, whatever the regular version of it, if that wasn't always it, and then someone came in and created, no, we need this other version to screw them up, you know, like that's where my mind continues to go. Was language always messed up, or did someone come in and mess it up?
I see what you mean there, but again, if you think about it, you're thinking it from your English operating system. So you think,
exactly.
Okay, where did somebody come and make Spanish different from English? Let's say in this verb, Like, where did somebody separate the who from the other questions, let's say, and create another verb for the who, right?
Right. Like, did you always have these two different versions of being? Or was it at one point there was one and it was regular and it was cohesive, and then someone came in and said, no, we need another one to differentiate the how version?
But at the same time, I mean, it's so clear, you know, conceptually for us to separate the two. You know, I could even ask, when did somebody merge the who with the other things in English and say, okay, it's all to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think in my mind, I'm giving Spanish more credence because I'm guessing it's older and more established. Or is it the same as English in terms of coming out of these other like Proto-European, Latin, Germanic, whatnots?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a cousin. It's more or less in the same generation. The difference, another difference in Spanish is they have this thing called the Real Academia Española, so the Royal Spanish Academy, which is basically the guys who wish to control the language and its evolution. And so if, for example, I studied translation, I'm a translator. So sometimes when you are justifying a particular translation, you could use the justification of, okay, yeah, but here in the Real Academia Española dictionary, it says that the spelling of this word, for example, is this. Okay.
Right.
You guys have something similar in, like, I don't know, the Oxford Dictionary and dictionaries like that, but they are more like reflecting the evolution of language rather than controlling it, in my estimation.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating for me because Oxford English Dictionary has been co-opted, right? So when that used to be my go-to, and it's probably been co-opted for much longer than I figured it out. And so Cambridge seems to be the least co-opted, but I don't even trust those, you know, like I've just become so suspicious of it all. Like I don't buy it.
Yeah. And like, for example, there's a particular rules in Spanish of how you combine the letters to make the words. So a very funny one is the word whiskey. You know, when there's, they call them, I think they call them lendings or borrowings from languages. So you have whiskey and they say, no, the correct spelling of the word is this one down here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the one up top supposed to be Spanish?
This one up top here it says a voice from the English and from the Gaelic, which is water of life, something like that. But they say, what's the definition? Look at this word for the definition. So the correct word would be this. So it says alcoholic liquor obtained from certain plants, blah, 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 distillation. But this is how they say you should write it.
That's bizarre. I didn't realize you guys used umlauts in Spanish.
Yeah. It's because when you, in certain cases, you know, for example, que, the question what, que,
yeah,
it's Q-U-E without the umlauts. If you put the umlauts, you pronounce the U. So in this case, if it didn't have, you would say giski. You see how it has it has the two examples, right?
Yeah.
In the first one, you say whiskey. I don't know who told them that it would be like accepted by anybody to spell a word that's so widespread, to spell it like that just to annoy people.
Yeah, exactly. Like, who has the authority to make these questionable decisions?
Apparently they think they do, and it's all connected, you know. It's Royal Academy, so it's connected with the king and the queen or whatever of Spain. It's so weird. And the role of the, I don't even know what they have right now. The last I know is there was a king of Spain, King Juan Carlos, I think was his name. And I'm not sure if he's still in charge or if he kind of stepped down and now it's his son. So it's all connected with the royals. Now we start making some connections of who is trying to control the language. Okay, so the ancient bloodlines, it seems.
Yeah,
It makes sense,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. I mean, if I were looking at a shorter to-do list, I would definitely invest more time in getting to the bottom of that. And that's more, you know, in terms of figuring out what to do with time, it's like, okay, well, what's going to be generative and of service and what's just satisfying my curiosity.
But this is a very weird thing. And I think it's also connected to, you know, this thing of ser and estar.
Yeah.
It's kind of connected with one of the first things that I drew from it is, okay, so one is more talking like about the observer, the witness. You know, in spirituality, this idea of you are not your thoughts, you are not your actions, you are actually the one that is witnessing all of that happening in you. And the part of being or the ser, it feels like it's pointing more at that. That's why I eventually like put it in the question of who. But the part of estar seems to be more connected with the state that is being perceived or something like that. So one, yeah. Go ahead.
I just heard you say that, and it's the first time I realized like there's the state as in the quality of beingness, and then this like overlord that claims to have authority over us, and state is another like fundamental being word, but then we empower the nefarious overlord construct anytime we describe our own state of being.
You know, and for example, emotions. I am sad, I am angry, I am anxious, I am frustrated, I am depressed. It's saying the observer, the witness is sad, you know?
Yeah, we're merging with it's exactly like the clouds behind you. Sadness, anxiety, happiness, those are temporary states of weather that move through us. So to conflate it with our identity is to put us at odds with the fundamental impermanence of this reality construct, in addition to like inviting energies to stick around longer than we may want them to by giving them that kind of perceived permanence.
Whereas in Spanish, you say you're in relation to the emotions, you use estar, you use the other word. You say estoy triste, estoy. So it's not that much distance from the emotion, but it is a little bit, half a step, I could say, maybe of maybe disidentification or with the emotion, which it's a good thing, I guess.
But so you're still using in Spanish the I am to describe your relationship to emotions versus the like I have that's used in describing how many years we've collected.
So we use this other word, which for us it's not related necessarily to being. You know, we don't think of ser and estar as two sides of a same coin. They are two different verbs in Spanish. Okay. And we use ones, but me, because I know English, I what could I say? I perceived this inconsistency or this difference between the two languages, that things we would say in Spanish with estar and with ser, we only say them with to be in English. I found that very interesting.
Yeah, it's more limiting. I mean, again, because I have the English-shaped brain, I'm still welcoming deeper understanding of the difference. But it does feel like, I mean, kind of like a fundamental attack on our beingness and our understanding of our beingness in this realm.
Let me add just two small things. So one is, for example, I just thought, for example, you were talking about age. In English, you would say, I am whatever age. In Spanish, there is this third verb for the age. You would say differently. You would say that you have, tengo, in my case, 34 years.
Yeah.
In English, you also identify with the age in that case. But and the second thing that I wanted to add here is that at the same time, it's easier to make empowering affirmations, I think, in English than it is in Spanish, because since I am works with almost everything, in Spanish, if you wanted to say I am abundant, I am prosperous, I am healthy, you would say, it would make more sense to say estoy, the other word. And that feels a little distant from the speaker, as Krishnamurti might say.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it
is
works
there
both ways?
Right. That's interesting. So it kind of makes English a more powerful weapon or reality creation tool. Again, I think it just kind of raises the stakes of the level of understanding and responsibility in how we utilize language, which I'm excited for us to catch up to speed on.
Yeah. So yeah, this is what I was very interested in bringing to your attention, and more than to bring to your attention, in like sharing with you and seeing your getting your feedback on this particular curious notion that has always caught my attention since very little, when I started learning English. I mean, not since I started, because I started learning English like around 4. So I guess I must have come to the realization of this more like around 10 or something like that. But it's always since I noticed it, I've always thought, well, that's interesting. How does this work in the people who only speak one or the other language? Always found it very curious.
Yeah, that is interesting. I'm often asked if my quantum languaging work applies to other languages, and I say like it might. I don't have enough knowledge, so it's really helpful to have this conversation. It's expanding my ability to understand. What I'm thinking of right now is, are you familiar with Ebonics?
Yeah, it's like the slang from like African Americans or something like that.
Yes, exactly. And I'm just thinking of, and might not be completely accurate, but I'm thinking of like I be, you be, they be, how that's actually like a more unifying, coherent way to use that verb. I think there's something like that actually is making more sense in light of this conversation. That kind of unifies how that word's doled out. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, that's very interesting to consider. Very, very interesting, definitely. So yeah, if you wanted to share some closing thoughts.
This is just fascinating. Yeah. I'm so happy that that you invited me to share this conversation with you. I'm intrigued. You know what I would like for us to do as your game is to brainstorm like what is the regular verb that we can start using to replace it, and just in our own lives see what shifts. Because that's how I love to play with language, is I'll get an idea for an upgrade for a word or a phrase that isn't working for me, and then I just experiment with it in my own life. So and to open it up to whoever's listening to our conversation, like send in some suggestions for a way that we could make this verb more regular and cohesive, and then let's just play as a community with what happens in our life when we use it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Give me just one more second. I'll be right back. Okay, thank you. So yeah, the Ebonics thing. Okay, so that's a great like you said, you call it like a game, that to think about how we might transform the verb to be. Does it need to exist? Maybe it doesn't. And what would language around it not existing, maybe what would it be like?
Yeah.
And if it does exist, how maybe we could change it to be a regular verb. And the idea of keeping it in its neutral form or whatever in the infinitive, it's a good one.
Yeah, I like this. And you're also reminding me that I am in the practice of removing I am in my written communications. It's it's great practice for me to type words because I can see them, and then there's more space to edit, to play with it. So, if it's like going to farmer's market on Saturday, like I'm definitely in the practice of removing the I am from that and using the verb on its own. So that could be another way we could play with it. And I let you just suggested that. I got that from you of like, do we even need it? And where is it ancillary, and where is it just fragmenting or creating identification, or, however it's functioning? Is it necessary, and is it serving us to use it?
Yeah. What's do you know about is it the 3 gates? About before speaking, maybe we can close with this idea. It's very cool.
Is it true? Is it kind? Is it true? Is it useful? Is that the last one?
It says here, before you speak, let your words pass through 3 gates. At the first gate, ask yourself, is it true? At the second gate, ask, is it necessary? At the third gate, ask, is it kind? So true, necessary, and kind. Maybe it helps to like frame the exercise a little bit more.
Yeah, I think I made a little video on that. I can send it to you.
Awesome. Well, Dani Katz, this has been again a great Aquarian Dialogues that we just had.
Indeed.
I had a lot of fun. Thank you for being open to play with this and this back and forth with the possibility of the base of language being kind of the roots of language being kind of rotting, or maybe not, and to see how we might begin to look at this stuff in a different way to help empower everybody and help bring this new earth that we're also so happy and excited about its arrival.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much for having me on, for opening my mind and giving me lots to chew on, Rafa. It's so great to hang out with you again.
Awesome. Well, everybody, again, you can follow Dani. You can find her on danikatz.com. Cool.
Yes.
Something.dani on Instagram. And you have a webinar coming up that if not live, people can catch the recording of, correct? It's coming up on June 13th.
It's June 13th, and for anyone who can't be there, and even for people who can be there, it will be recorded, and you will get access to the recording for as long as there's an internet.
Cool. And what was it about again?
It's the language of healing. So it's the 10 precepts of a language of healing, which teaches us how to program our body for accelerated healing, optimal health and well-being with our every word. Perfect.
Yeah, very, very important. Health, I think, when was it? Health, wealth, and love. I mean, those are like very, very main areas, and I'm very happy that you're sharing these very practical tools, through stuff we take for granted, like language. And and I hope people, if you hadn't before looked at language in this kind of deeper way, I hope this conversation sparks some thoughts and ideas in your minds, and and especially that it sparks you into action to make whatever changes might be necessary or beneficial in the way you speak to yourself, in the way you speak to others, in the way you interpret what happens in your life, what experiences come to you. And I'm very happy that you were there sharing this time with us. I'm very happy that Dani was here, and you can follow me on Instagram as well, @manrafa. And you're probably watching this on Patreon, so thank you so much for the support. in any case, share this and yeah, let's get the snowball rolling and start communicating with ourselves and with each other in a more empowering way. So thank you so much, everybody. See you all.
Beautiful.
Bye.